Welcome back to another episode of Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Today we are cooking dry-aged prime tomahawks. We'll be cooking them over lump charcoal and finishing them on the smoker. But before we get started, let's open the first ingredient. Go ahead and dig into your private stash, pour yourself a shorty, and go ahead and throw that down as a toast to the meat gods. Back in 2019, I qualified and competed in the SCA World Championship Cook-Off for steak. The recipe we are using today is almost identical to the recipe I used in that competition. We are starting off by inspecting our steaks. You'll notice the marbling, and you can clearly tell these are prime steaks. We're going to lay them out, and these I've already seasoned, but we are going to cover these thoroughly with kosher salt. And what we are doing is creating a dry brine for the steaks. Once the steaks are thoroughly coated, we're going to place them in the fridge for a few hours. This process will have several effects on the meat. It will firstly season the meat. Second of all, it will draw out some moisture from the steaks, intensifying the beef flavor. It will help to maintain moisture in the meat and to a certain degree will tenderize the beef. Here I am tearing off sheets of foil and ripping them into strips. What we are going to do is wrap the bones in foil. This will prevent our bones from burning while we grill them, but in no way will it affect the meat if you skip this step. It is purely aesthetic. However, gripping them with foil is a little more sanitary when we go to flipping and turning the steaks later. But here you're witnessing the culmination of 40 years of bone handling experience. Now, let's go ahead and foil up the rest. Now that we have them seasoned and foiled, we can place them back in the fridge. We're going to let them sit in the fridge for approximately 4 to 5 hours. Okay, now it's time to light the tires and kick the fires. Go ahead and dump your lit chimney in the basket. Today we're using lump charcoal, but we're going to go ahead and start it with briquettes because we have plenty of extra and I'm trying to use them up. While the smoker is coming up to temp, we're going to go ahead and load the grill with more lump charcoal. You'll want to arrange those chunks in the grill. I like to visibly inspect the charcoal. Sometimes you get bits of trash or debris in there. You'll want to remove those so you'll have a clean cook. And since we are cooking such an expensive steak today, we don't want to screw it up and have to throw it out. So make sure your charcoal is clean. Then stick them nicely in a pile, and we're going to dump our lit chimney over the charcoal using briquettes, just like we did in the smoker. The briquettes won't affect the lump as they will burn up before the rest of the charcoal is lit. And we'll still get a nice woody flavor from the lump. Go ahead and let your grill come up to temp. I hadn't cleaned my grates since the last time I cooked a steak, so I thought I would give them a quick once-over with the brush. The fire it sits on will get them hot enough to sterilize them completely, but removing any debris will be beneficial to the final product. Once I'm done cleaning, I'll move it into position. Then we're going to let them come up to temp. Alright, it's time to season our steaks. We're going to retrieve the steaks from our fridge and place them in the work area. Go ahead and give them a quick flip just in case any of the moisture extracted from the meat has accumulated on the tops. Now that we've got them flipped, we are seasoning them with Boar's Night Out White Lightning. The seasoning is a good all-purpose seasoning, and it works especially well on steaks. And if you go to any SCA steak competition, you'll realize that about 75% of the people competing are using this rub. Keep in mind these steaks are about 3 pounds a piece, so there is a lot of meat we are trying to season. So Boar's Night Out does not have enough black pepper in it for my liking, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little more freshly ground black pepper. You'll always want to use freshly ground, especially on expensive cuts such as these. If you don't have Boar's Night Out rub, instead you can make an SPG rub. The SPG should be mixed in a 3-2-1 ratio, which is 3 parts salt, 2 parts granulated garlic, and 1 part freshly ground black pepper. Okay, now that we have the tops and bottoms seasoned, we're going to make sure that we get all the edges as well. Again, this is a very thick piece of meat, and that would be a lot of surface area to go unseasoned. Apply the rub to the sides, then we're going to let them sit for about 5 to 10 minutes and go check the grill. Now that the grates are up to temp, a good pro tip is to take a chunk of fat and wipe it across the grates. This will do 2 things. It will allow you to see if the grates are hot enough by the visible hissing and smoking, and it will also act as lubrication for your meat. We have placed a steak on the grate, and we are letting it go for 1 minute. You can use your tongs to press down the steak to make sure you are getting good contact with the grates. But after 1 minute, we're going to turn the steak approximately 90 degrees and let it go for another minute. Now, if your grates aren't hot enough here, you might have to let it go as long as 2 minutes, but you will learn with practice how long it takes on your grill. And here comes the money shot, and 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, baby, look at those grill marks. Oh. And now that we've flipped it, we're going to let it go for 1 minute, and then we are going to turn it 90 degrees and let it go 1 more minute. And after that, we're going to remove it from the fire and set it aside. The steak will have cooked for a total of 4 minutes. Now, for a steak of that size, that's not near enough time to cook it all the way through. So you're going to be looking at pretty much a refrigerator temperature steak on the inside. Now, some people may choose to eat them that way, but after we sear all the steaks, we're going to put them in the smoker and bring them to our desired temperature. Okay, needles up. Smoker's up to temp, and the boys just showed up with their appetites and beer. We got the steaks on the rack, so we're going to open the smoker and arrange the steaks on the grates. Here I'm trying to place them towards the outside edge of the smoker because the heat typically concentrates in the middle on a drum smoker when you cook without the diverter plate. So if we place them on the outside, we'll cook more evenly than a steak that is placed in the middle. Once I have them arranged on the grate, I'm going to go ahead and probe the biggest one in the middle. With a little help from my friends here, we'll put the probe in the steak, and we're going to cook it until we reach an internal temp. Oops, we forgot to put the wood in. We wanted a little extra smoke on these steaks, so we're going to drop in a couple extra chunks of wood. After that, we are going to cook the steaks to an internal temperature of 115 degrees. That will give us a nice rare steak after resting. Once your temp alarm goes off, it's a good idea to double check all your steaks and make sure they are done. These are perfect. What do you think, boys? Are y'all ready to eat? Here they are before we put them in the smoker. And as you can see, they are gorgeous with beautiful grill marks. And here is the color they take on after smoking for approximately 30 minutes. They are cooked to 115 degrees internally and a perfect rare to medium rare. And they are beefy, smoky, and delicious. Thank you for joining us today in the Pig and Whiskey Test Kitchen. Hope to see you next time. Subscribe.